Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Happy Friday. It's always news dump day. I don't know what news will be dumped, but you know, I have a few things I thought I would look at on this Friday. Thank you to those of you who watched and commented on the video that I put up yesterday of Dr. Lena Rodriguez from Tarot Down Under and me. We have a conversation once a month, and we don't pull cards or anything because if you want to see us pull cards, she does it on her channel, I do it on my channel. Um, but it's just a conversation between people who live, across the world from each other, and we look at politics and culture. And it's we always have a good time. You're welcome to eavesdrop on the conversation when we do that. The next one probably will be towards the end of December, and we'll probably look at the year we will have just had and what's coming in for 2026. So look for that. But anyway, thank you so much for your kind comments about that particular video. And I have an announcement that I want to make at the end. I always have my notes. So I wrote down that I want to make an announcement at the end so I don't forget. So, first question. Uh, Again, back on the election. I thought it was interesting that it has been observed that neither Hakeem Jeffries nor Chuck Schumer attended Mamdani's victory party. Now, we know that in terms of endorsements, Jeffries dragged his feet, but did at the last minute endorse Mamdani. But we know that Chuck Schumer did not endorse him. We also know that, other people like, what's that senator? What's her name? Gillibrand. Gillibrand had some not very nice things to say about Mamdani when he was first elected, or maybe before the election. Before the election. But I don't know if it was when he was nominated. It might have been when he was just nominated. But I mean, this is what I mean when I talk about the establishment Democrats. They really need to, get with the times. So to be fair, I thought I would ask, why did they not attend Mamdani's victory party? It's in their state, the state that each of them represents. So why were they not there? I don't know if Gillibrand was there. I hope she was. But let's just ask the cards. I'm going to let Spirit pick all the cards. And I want to know, why were they not celebrating this victory with all the rest of the city of New York? Okay. Okay, Spirit's going to pick all of them. Why did they not attend the party? Previous engagement, I'm sure that's what they'll say. Okay, we have the anchor, we have the heart. In the center, we have the birds, we have the letter, and we have the snake. I think it's very clear why they didn't attend. So let's go one by one. I don't even feel like I need clarifiers. They feel weighted down by this election, stuck by this election. And I can mirror the last card with this first card. It's the snake. They think that Mamdani spells trouble for them because, again, he is not a typical establishment politician, not a typical establishment Democratic politician. They represent the old guard. We know that Jeffries was trained up by the soon to be retired Nancy Pelosi, and that is why he's so cautious and uh, measured in how he acts and what he says. Mamdani is not that way, so they feel sort of stuck with this problem because people love. Mamdani. And how do we know? Because it's mirrored with the letter. My the letter is my card for votes. So people love him, which puts the two of them, meaning Jeffries and Schumer, between a rock and a hard place. I think I'll pull clarifiers on the birds in the set because that's the center card. The birds is about sort of word on the street, what common lore has to say about Mamdani. So let's look and see what that's. And also what common lore will say about those two men. So clarifiers for the birds, which really is the people in a lot of ways. We have the key, the book, and the bear. So, this is the talk on the street about who he is and what he's going to do. People have very high hopes because he has a very ambitious agenda. And I feel like these two others, Schumer and Jeffries, are like, we don't know what to make of him. The book is about things we don't know. We don't know what to make of him. And we feel uh, bullied by that fact. Not that Mamdani is a bully, but he has exerted a certain kind of, we'll call it soft power that people respond to and have very high hopes and expectations for. And Schumer and Jeffries don't know what to do. If they had been smart, they would have gone to the party. At least go on record as having been good sports about things, but they couldn't even bring themselves to be good sports. So that's that. That's my gossipy piece for today. Okay. Then I have a couple of Supreme Court questions. So the felon kind of threatened the Supreme Court over this tariff issue. I talked about the tariff issue the day before yesterday when I was still in my undisclosed location, I think. And I said I was really interested in the questions that Chief Justice Roberts had asked and Gorsuch had asked, because Roberts asked, well, who pays the tariffs? Now, of course, the answer is the people pay the tariffs. Because what happens is businesses pay the tariffs and then pass the cost on to the consumer. That means that the people pay the tariffs. The citizens of this country pay the tariffs, which of course, the felon has up and down denied. Well, in that hearing, the Supreme Court hearing, um, Roberts asked that question, who pays the tariffs? Because he wanted on record the government's attorney, the felon's attorney, to say who pays the tariffs, and that attorney did say the consumer, the people pay. Okay, so that's clear. That is established fact, right? Now, here's the thing. What the felon did was he threatened the Supreme Court by saying, listen, if you all don't vote with me on this, if you vote to overturn these tariffs that I have put in place under the guise of saying there was an emergency situation and that's why I could do it without uh, putting it before Congress, because really Congress was the ones who should have done this if it was going to be done. He said, if you vote against me, this will create economic havoc for everyone. And I saw somebody on Instagram made a very good point, which is, wait, why? Why would undoing the tariffs create economic hardship for everyone? And then this person went on to explain the why of the why. In actuality, apparently, the felon's government has collected $90 billion so far. Is that right? $90 billion in tariffs. Okay. But it is also true that that money has not been dispersed. How do we know? Because the government is shut down. SNAP's not funded, people are laid off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So technically, theoretically, practically speaking, that money should be sitting somewhere in a pot. They collected $90 million worth of tariffs. Where's the money? Now, because it has not been spent in any programs or anything that Congress has allotted, right? But as this person on Instagram pointed out, $40 million went to the felon's friend, the president of Argentina. So is that where some of it went? If so, well, all right, that's interesting because that would account for 40 billion dollars. Where's the other 50 billion? In the felon's pocket, under his mattress, in his bathroom at Mar-a-Lago in a box? Where's the money is the thing. So I guess that's the question. Where is the $90 billion of revenue from tariffs that has to date been collected? Because if the Supreme Court says, yeah, nah, son, you had no right to collect that money, he's going to have to cough it back up and give it to whoever he got it from. All the people that he, you know, charged tariffs, all the countries and everything else that he charged. I mean, but bottom line, the money would have to go back to the people in the end. Why? Because if businesses paid the tariffs, right, and then passed the cost on to the consumer, but now if the tariffs have been adjudged to be illegal, the money would be given back to those companies who in turn would, in a commensurate way, lower prices. Problem solved. But where's the money? All right, so let's just ask, where's the money? So I'm going to use fish because fish is the card for money, and I want to know what happened to that 90 million, billion, a billion with a B, 90 billion. The felon is really, his heart's going because, I mean, is that just more money that he allegedly and for entertainment purposes um, absconded with, hid, spent for his own purposes, gave away, you know. So let's look. Let's look for the fish and see where that money is. Okay. Fish stands for the 90 billion with a B dollars that have been collected in tariffs thus far. Interesting. If you have been with me a while, you know why I'm saying that that's very interesting already with those first two cards. But let's just see what we get here. I'm gonna. Hmm. Okay. We have the clouds. We have the book. We have the fish that stand for the 90 billion tariffs. We have the ring and we have the tree. Okay. And I pulled clarifiers on the last three cards because these two seem to me to be self-explanatory. There is a lot of obfuscation around this money, a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of confusion. Like, who's supposed to pay it? And where does it go? And is it legal? And what? All this confusion. And look, nobody knows where that money is. He's not saying where it is. We know Congress has not spent it on American needs because Congress is not in session. So already this starts out being shady. Okay. The fish in the middle, this is the money. The clarifiers are the whip, the young man, and Clover. So here's the tariffs situation. That's the actual money. There is a lot of fighting about this right now. Certainly on the Supreme Court, amongst themselves, they're trying to, although they seem to say, again, with those comments by Gorsuch and by Roberts, they seem to be skeptical of the felon's right to have raised those tariffs and put those tariffs on in the first place. So there's a lot of contention around this. Now, you know what? I think this is Neil Katyal. I do. I think he is the right man for the job. Neil Katyal, of course, is the attorney who is um, representing the people as opposed to the president's side. He's representing us on this tariff situation. And I think he will get lucky. I think that the court themselves are having buyer's remorse about how much leeway they've given the felon. So here we have the ring, and the clarifiers are the scythe, the moon, and the stork. Look, this is the contracts, so to speak, the tariffs. You X will have to pay to us Y this amount of money, sign, blah, 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 blah. So this is the contracts. But look, I think that the court says that's not legal. What you did was extrajudicial, felon. You claimed that there was some sort of emergency. There was not any emergency. There was no impending anything, not war, nothing that should have given you the idea that you could raise these tariffs unilaterally. So I think that the tariffs will be made null and void by the court, and I think this will improve the reputation of the court in the eyes of the population, because this is the card for reputation, and it improves not the felon's reputation, but the court finally saying, wait a minute, we think you went too far, and we went too far in allowing you to go too far. So and they need some reputational, um, emergency aid because, they kind of look bought and paid for entertainment purposes only. But this will do something to improve their standing in the eyes of the public. And then we have the fifth card, which is the tree. Clarifiers are the lily, the key, and the scales. I like this. I think it will take time to untangle everything. Um, but I think in the end, the tariff thing will be reversed and the money will be returned. But I just glanced over at that first card as I look at this last card because this is, justice. But here's the card for obfuscation. Delay, delay, delay. That is the stock and trade tactic of this felon and his administration. So whether justice will completely be done, I don't know. And the question that I asked the cards, if you recall, is where's the money? I mean, with these two cards, all we needed was like, I don't know, the fox or something, or the mice, which is the card for theft, to make me think that he absconded with the funds. But these two cards are sufficient to make me think that what he did with that money, it was not above board. I don't think the money is where it should be, which is in an account somewhere waiting to be spent. Why would he say to the Supreme Court, "Oh my God, you will be wreaking economic havoc on the country if you reverse my tariffs. Why? Just unlock the vault. You have 90 billion dollars in there. Where's the money? I definitely think he's up to no good with that, but I also think that the court will reverse him. And then let's watch the tap dance that he does at that point. Assuming that his heart um, can withstand the stress of it all, such that he can tap dance. I'm not sure. I think this is he's really treading on very dangerous grounds because if he can't cough up that money, that means he stole 90 billion, not billion, yeah, billion, $90 billion from the consumers, from business, from other countries. But, he's already a 43-time adjudicated felon. So, what's another 90 billion? But you know, we'll know soon um, how that will be, how that will play out. I I say soon, sooner than July, I think, because that's what I looked at when I was in my undisclosed location. Sooner than July, but not right away. And whatever they decide, he will appeal. So that will stretch it out even longer. But we at least have a sense of the fact that the court is not impressed with the administration's argument. Okay. The other Supreme Court question I wanted to look at is this gay marriage situation. So I don't know, many of you will probably remember this, some of you will maybe not, but there was this woman named Kim Davis. She's from Kentucky, and she was a court clerk. And one of the, functions of a court clerk is that they issue marriage licenses. So back in 2015, she was approached by a couple, same-sex couple, who wanted a marriage license, and she denied them that license. There was a big court case around this, and she was adjudicated wrong. And so she was ordered to pay $360,000 for damages and court costs, attorney fees and stuff, to this couple. Okay. And then she kind of faded into the woodwork, and we haven't heard of her since until now. Because now she's petitioned the Supreme Court for a relook at her case. She wants to appeal that verdict, that $360,000 damages verdict. Now, here's the thing: the court, gay marriage is the law of the land. It's a done thing, but I mean, so was Roe until it wasn't. Uh, so was the Voting Rights Act. And I mean, things don't look too good for the Voting Rights Act. So the question it will come before has come before the court. She has asked the court to look at this. The court has said they will render a decision Monday. So today's Friday. They're going to render a decision Monday, but don't get excited because the decision is not whether, whether gay marriage is still the law of the land. No, the decision will be on Monday whether or not they will take up the case, right? If they decide not to take up the case, then she's back where she started and she can crawl back into the hole that she came out of. If they decide to take the case, that is actually not a great sign for the continued health and welfare of gay marriage. So I guess what I want to do is see what the court will decide um, on that question. I got a little dazed because I was thinking of what card I want to use for the court. And I was thinking about the reading that I just did just 2 seconds ago. And wasn't birds in the middle? Well, or somewhere. But birds Birds stand for the court. So that was interesting that they popped up, even though I let Spirit pick all the cards. Or did I? There was that fish. Did I use fish for that one? I don't even know. Anyway, you know what I mean. Birds is the card that I use for the Supreme Court, is the point. Okay, so this time I am going to look for the birds, and I want to know sort of what their thinking is on whether or not to accept Kim Davis's request to hear an appeal on that $360,000 verdict against her that was rendered, a decade ago. Okay. I don't think that Amy the handmaiden was on the court back then. I'm not sure if Gorsuch was on the court back then. Um, okay. So we're looking for the birds that will stand for the Supreme Court, and this is the issue of gay marriage. Will they hear Kim Davis's case? I'm not really going to look to see how they would vote on the case because it's a little premature for that. But I think if they say that yes, they will hear it, that is bad news for gay marriage. Did I miss the card? No. Yes, it's the okay. So you know how this works. It's the next to the last card, which means that when I draw the line, it's going to be the next to the last card. So I put that down, um, and I only have one card that goes after it. Sorry. And the other cards have to come before it. So, okay. So this is on the question of will they hear her appeal? We have the book, we have the stork, we have the dog, we have the Supreme Court, and we have fish. You know, don't love fish there. Why don't I love fish there? Because fish is the card for emotion, but more to the point, fish is the card for money. And there are people in high places with heavy laden pockets who who have a vested interest in gay marriage being overturned. So with the book, this is about things that are hidden, things that we don't know about. I don't love that it mirrors the fish. Could justices be um, encouraged to vote a certain way? I don't know. And apparently, Spirit doesn't know. Second card, the stork. Okay, this is interesting. I like the stork. The stork always means positive change. And here's the thing. What can we mirror the stork with? The card for the Supreme Court, the birds. That's interesting. And then what's also further interesting is the dog. Now, the dog is the card for lawyers, that's true, but it's also the card for, um, it's a great card. It's a card that, when you see it kind of on its own, yeah, it's a card that should make you feel good because it's about trust, and friendship and kindness and helping and all of that. And I'm just going to say that stork and birds together remind me of something that I said in just the previous reading a second ago, which is the court really does have a vested interest in taking into account the people. Now, they will say, oh, yeah, no, we don't take that into account. We don't worry about what's popular, what's not popular. What we do is we go by the law. That's what they'll say. Um, but how's that working for them? They really need a rejudge of their reputation. Am I right? So they could say, okay, you know what, we're not going to touch this. Or they could say, oh, we're going to touch it. But Kim Davis, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. We will continue to make gay marriage the law of the land because that's what the people want. So I don't know. Let me pull clarifier on the dog and on the court and on the fish. Ooh, okay. Sometimes it's good to know when to quit. I don't know. So this is the card that's in the middle, right? So this is the lawyers, and the clarifiers are the ship, the scythe, and the rider. I hate to say this. So, when I held up the stork and the court, it's true that their reputation could stand some cleaning up, but in the eyes of whom do they want to clean it up, right? So, for example, if MAGA is who they want to impress and make like them, they could vote to hear Kim Davis's case and overturn that verdict. So there's that. But here we have the dog, the ship. The ship tends to mean things move ahead. The case moves ahead. They agree to hear it. And their decision will send a message. Their decision will send a message. Here's the court. Clarifiers are the bear, the whip, and the bouquet. Uh, this is the court. Hmm. Who's the bear? I will say that I don't think the felon cares one way or the other about gay marriage. I really don't. I could say more, but I won't. So it's not about making him happy, I don't think. But remember, he is the stooge for people bigger than him. People like, I don't know, Peter Thiel, Curtis Jarvin, you know, who whom who the Supreme Court has some interests in keeping happy, I'll say, entertainment purposes only, allegedly. So, of course, there will be lots of arguments back and forth. And then we have this bouquet card. Now, the bouquet, of course, is a win. The question is, well, who does the winning? Kim Davis, the bigot, or gay marriage, the law on the books? That's the question. So then we have our last line. We have the fish, and we have the heart, the tree, and hold on, I'll show you the last clarifier in a minute. This could be money. Money talks. Ask Clarence Thomas about where he got his RV and how he got his mother's house redone for free. Anyway, the love of money, the love of money. Um, you know, it is money is the lifeblood of this country. I don't say that like it's a good thing because it's not a good thing. And I hate the fact that the line ends with the cross because it's making me think that what will happen is that on Monday they will say, yeah, we'll take the case. And again, it's too early to read on what they decide, but I do think just if they decide to take the case in the first place, that is not a positive development if you are in favor of gay marriage. We'll see. Energy is mutable. People have free will, but as of, you know, 4:40 on a Friday afternoon on the West Coast, it looks like they will take the case, which will be cause for Kim Davis, of course, at least, to celebrate, and a lot of right wingers in the felons sphere. Okay. Um, so, last question before my announcement. Apparently, in the past 24, 48 hours, Republicans have leaked, and it's always interesting where the leaks come from, right? But the Republicans have leaked the idea or the fact that they have been informed by the DOJ that the felons featuring in the Epstein files is way bigger and more serious and more damning than originally thought. We already know from Trump biographer Michael Wolff, who has seen them, that there are a series of Polaroid pictures which depict the felon in the company of girls, not underage women, girls who are topless and surrounding him. And I mean, you know the story. But that's apparently, according to the Republican leaks, that is just nothing compared to what else there is. Now, what else there is? I mean, okay, it might be even worse pictures than that, but I don't think it's pictures only. I mean, I'm sure there are worse pictures, and I don't even want to know what's in them. I'm sure there are pictures, but I think it's more. I think that there could be evidence that the felon was linked with Epstein in this enterprise that is international in scope, very, very wide reaching, deep reaching, high up reaching into the echelons of, you know, um, many governments, including ours, of course, but many other governments, and that it was like a business. And so that it becomes in the end less important whether the felon himself availed himself of the um, activities, we'll say, with young girls, and what becomes more salient is the business end. Think of the pageants and stuff. What are pageants full of? Girls. It's like I mean, so I think it's way worse than a bunch more salacious pictures. I think it is evidence of his involvement in ultimately what was an international criminal enterprise. Now, so that's the groundwork for what I want to look at. If they were, if the Republicans were apprised of this and then leaked it, anytime there's a leak, there's a flood waiting to happen, right? Why leak something unless you're having second thoughts about this person whom you're supporting, who is ruining your reputation back home because the government is closed and because people are hungry and unhoused and don't have jobs, and you've been defending this guy hook, line, and sinker throughout. Well, if come to find out he wasn't just doing the boys will be boys things and you know, um, mistreating women in that essay kind of way, but that he was the co-head of an enterprise that specialized in that, are you still gonna be his ride or die? So I guess what I want to know is whatever they found out, these Republicans who leaked this information, um, will it change, will Republicans start to fall away from the felon in a big way soon as a result of this? Because trust and believe, Epstein, that's not going away anytime soon. No, it's not going anywhere. All right, so let's see, how do I want to look at this? I think what I'll do is I will pay the birds overtime and say that the birds are going to stand for Republicans. And when I say Republicans, I mean Congress people and senators. Okay. So I want to know um, how will this new information affect their perception of the felon? Will it move the needle one way or the other? So we're looking for the birds, but this time it stands for Congress. And um, and we want to know, will they fall away from him? Will they still be in for a penny, in for a pound with him? What will happen as a result of this new information? So we're looking for the birds. And again, that will stand for Congress. Because what are they going to look like if they end up having supported this guy and and he is the head of an international ring? Mhm. Okay. So we have the mountain, we have Clover, we have Congress, we have clouds, and we have the fox. So this is our original line of five. And I pulled clarifiers on all but these. So we know that to date, the administration has done everything that they can to block the Epstein files, and Congress too on the Republican side. There's only a few people on that side that are calling for these files to be released. So this is just blocking that. But I feel like this block will be shorter lived than they hope that it will be. Clover's a quick card. And already with this leak, we see that the dike's not going to hold. Okay. We have the Congress in the center, and it's followed by clouds. So, in very quick order, a lot of Republicans will start to have doubts about the felon and will start to think like that they got played because the Fox is the ultimate con man. They will start to think that they got played. Okay. Played to the extent that they have agreed to this shutdown, which has meant, you know, rack and ruin for them at home with their constituents. Okay. So I pulled cards on the birds. Remember, the birds are standing for Congress here. We have the bear, we have the letter, and we have the key. Now, to date, and this is a center line, so the center line is like right now. To date, Congress has supported this narcissistic felon because he guarantees them that they won't be primaried. He guarantees money for their campaigns, etc. They don't necessarily want him showing up at their campaign rallies because that could be the kiss of death. But he funds their campaign. He makes sure they're not primaried. That's why they have gone along with him. But doubts are starting to set in to the point where they will start to say, maybe we need to go a different way from him. They feel stuck by being allied with him, known as one of his bend the knee type of guys. Uh, and then we have this Lily, and I think that they don't feel at ease. Clouds mirror the lily. They do not feel at ease. In fact, I think they feel stuck. So there will be those who stick with him because, again, in for a penny, in for a pound, they don't see any alternative. Like, how do I get off this merry-go-round? What am I going to say? I would say take a leaf out of MTG's playbook. He wouldn't let her run for Senate. So she said, "Well, I'm going to go another way." It can be done. It's a question of whether they have the courage of their convictions enough to do it. Some will, some won't. Here we have the fox, and this is sometimes I love the fox. Sometimes a really benign, good card, despite what some Lenormandists will tell you. It's the card for the expert. It's the card for the professor. It's the card for the detective. It's the card for the medical specialist. It's the card for the foreigner. So it can be a really good card, but I would say maybe seven out of 10 times, it's the card for, you know, the guy that's up to no good, the con man or woman, the sneaky, gaslighting, you know, type of person. And I think people will feel very gaslit by this White House. People being Republican Congress people who have supported him come hell or high water will start to feel really betrayed and snookered by him and will realize that the gift that they thought that they had in supporting him, which is his support back, is not what they thought it was. Mice is a card that is erosive, corrosive a lot of times. And what starts to crumble is his ability to continue to con them. And what starts to crumble is the wall that has been erected between us and the Epstein files. So slowly but surely, people will start to fall away. And they will do a cost benefit analysis and say, I guess we're just going to have to do an MTG, fall on our swords, say we once were lost, but now we're found, we're blind, but now we see, and hope that their constituents can forgive them. Some of them may be forgiven, others won't. But this wall around the Epstein files is going to crumble. And it's being eroded by Republicans who, one by one, by one, by one, by one, will start to fall away. All right. So those are the issues that I wanted to look at tonight. I'll do more over the weekend, but I wanted to announce that I've opened up the membership uh, portion of the channel. So if you just click the join button, you can see what that means and see, what the cost is. It's nominal cost. But I thought it would be a smart way to handle the flow of things. So, for example, I think that when I may well do um, lives here and there for everybody, and everybody gets to comment, but I will also do lives that will be for members only, and people will be able to comment. In those member only lives, you can pose your questions in real time. I can answer them in real time. I know that people would like to be more in dialogue with me than just the comment section allows, because as I always tell you, I read all the comments. I just haven't got the time to reply to all of them. But my theory is if I have a membership and people are asking questions there and see me on the screen interacting in that way, um, you're more likely to get a response from me, obviously, right? So go look at the tiers. There's only two tiers. Feel no obligation to sign on. But I just did want you to know that I've opened it up, and my hope, the point is, my hope is that as this channel continues to grow, and I'm delighted about that, and please do like, share, subscribe, hype, all of that stuff. Please do continue to comment. All of that helps the channel grow. But for those of you who want to be in, more um, intimate connection with me and with what I do and with what I think, and would like to share with me what you think, it felt like a membership was the best way to go. So again, no pressure. It's like I said in the very beginning of the channel when I had like, I don't know, 50 people, and I'm like, you know what? This could be just you and me for the duration, and that's okay. That's all right. Um, and it really has grown. But I wanted to just present that as an option for people who think that might be something that they'd be interested in. So if you hit the button, it explains the benefits of membership. But please do not feel like you're under any obligation, or that I will love you any the less if you say hard pass. That's fine. Um, I encourage you to, again, no pressure, go over to Substack. I wrote my latest article today, and I talked about the blackout that is being proposed between November 25th and December 2nd. That was the focus of my piece. Um, so over there, you can it's by subscription, and it's $5 a month or $50 a year to read those articles. And I write them about once a week. So, and I use Lenormand, I use tarot, and I use an African oracle called the Adinkra. So if you would like to go see how I write, you can go over there and do that. It's also called In the Company of Cards. All right. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to start my Friday night, and I wish you all a wonderful one, and I will see you over the weekend. Take care.